Most men are asking the wrong question. They ask, how do I attract her? How do I keep her interested? How do I say the right thing? But Carl Jung would say, when the question is wrong, the answer will always disappoint. Because what women respond to is not a trick, not a technique, not a performance. It is something far more uncomfortable, far more demanding, and far rarer. Today, we will talk about the only thing women truly want, not what they say they want, not what culture tells you to want, but what the psyche responds to instinctively. This is not dating advice. This is not romance coaching. This is psychology. This is self-mastery. And if you truly understand it, you won't need to chase attention again.
Pause.
Breathe. Because once you see this clearly, you cannot unsee it. Attraction does not live in the conscious mind. If it did, love would be simple, relationships would be spreadsheets, and desire could be negotiated. But Jung taught us something unsettling. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Attraction operates in the unconscious. Women may explain attraction logically, kindness, stability, humor, ambition, but the psyche does not fall in love with words. It responds to energy, presence, and psychological structure. This is why men who do everything right are often ignored. Men who say very little often command attention, and why attraction can appear irrational, inconvenient, even self-sabotaging. It is not irrational, it is symbolic, and symbols speak to something deeper than reason. Jung believed that the feminine psyche is not attracted to dominance, but to containment, not control, not aggression, but inner structure. The feminine instinctively seeks emotional safety, psychological depth, and a stable inner axis, not because women are weak, but because life itself is chaotic, and chaos longs for form. Here is the uncomfortable truth. A woman is not asking, can you impress me? She is unconsciously asking, can your nervous system hold me? Can your presence ground me? Can your silence protect me? Most men fail here. Why? Because they are fragmented, reactive, performative. They are trying to get something, and need is always louder than presence. So what is the one thing? It is not confidence. Confidence can be fake. It is not money. Money amplifies. It does not anchor. It is not charisma. Charisma fades under pressure. The one thing women want is inner-centeredness, a man who is rooted in himself, a man who does not chase validation, a man who does not explain himself unnecessarily, a man who does not collapse emotionally when challenged. This man has something rare, an unshakable inner axis. Jung would call this individuation the process of becoming whole, and wholeness is magnetic, not because it tries, but because it does not need to. Neediness is not wanting love. Neediness is asking another person to regulate your identity. The feminine psyche feels this immediately. It feels like pressure, like responsibility, like emotional labor, even if you never say it out loud. This is why overtexting kills attraction, over-explaining weakens authority, over-giving creates imbalance, because unconsciously she feels, if I step closer, will I have to hold him together? And the answer must be no. Attraction flows towards strength, not strength of force, but strength of self-containment. Here is where most men turn away, because the work is not external, it is internal. Jung warned, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Men avoid their shadow, and their anger, and their insecurity, their fear of abandonment, their desire for approval. They suppress it, but suppressed shadow leaks. It shows up as passive aggression, jealousy, emotional volatility, covert contracts. Women sense this instantly. A man who has faced his shadow does not flinch. He is calm in conflict, measured in emotion, grounded under pressure. This is not learned in conversation. It is forged in solitude. One of the most misunderstood truths. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is density. A centered man does not rush to fill space. He allows pauses. He listens without needing to impress. His silence communicates, I am not afraid. I am not seeking approval. I trust myself. Words are cheap. Presence is rare. And presence cannot be faked for long. Women test not to dominate, but to feel safe. A test asks, will you collapse emotionally? Will you react impulsively? Will you betray your values to keep me? A centered man does not argue with tests. He does not panic. He does not perform. He remains himself. And this consistency tells the psyche, this man is stable, this man is real. Here is the paradox. The moment attraction becomes your goal, you lose it. Because the work was never about women. It was about becoming a man who is not ruled by external validation. When you are rooted, you choose, not chase. And you respond, not react. You give, not to get, but because you can. Attraction becomes a byproduct of integrity. And paradoxically, the less you need it, the more it finds you. The Stoics understood this long before Jung.
Marcus Aurelius wrote,
If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. A man ruled by desire is unstable. A man ruled by fear is weak. A man ruled by approval is lost. But a man ruled by inner principle is dangerous in the best way, because he cannot be manipulated. So now ask yourself, honestly, are you becoming impressive? Or are you becoming integrated? Are you chasing connection? Or cultivating inner stillness? Because women do not want perfection. They want presence, not attention, not effort, not performance.
presence.
The kindly kind that cannot be rehearsed. The kind that doesn't lean forward begging to be seen, and doesn't lean back pretending not to care. Presence is when a man is here, not scanning the room for approval, not calculating his next move, not splitting himself into fragments to be accepted. Presence is when a man has stopped abandoning himself.
And that
Is rare. They want a man who has met himself and stayed. Think about that for a moment. Most men have met themselves briefly, in silence, in failure, in rejection, in moments when distraction ran out. But they didn't stay. They rushed back into noise, into validation, into chasing, into numbing. They met themselves and turned away. A man who stays is different. He has sat with his fear without anesthetizing it. He has felt his loneliness without outsourcing it. He has faced his inadequacy without disguising it as arrogance or humor. He did not become bitter. He did not become performative. He did not become cruel. He became rooted. And that rooting changes how he walks into a room. He doesn't need to prove masculinity, because it's not an idea to him anymore. It's a state. When a woman encounters that kind of man, something subtle happens inside her nervous system. Her breathing slows. Her defenses soften. Her intuition leans forward. Not because she is impressed, but because she feels safe without being controlled. That's the paradox most men miss. Control repels. Containment attracts. A man who has met himself and stayed doesn't need to dominate the conversation. He doesn't rush to fill silence. He doesn't scramble to explain who he is. His life explains it for him. And if you do that work, the quiet work, the unseen work, the work no one applauds, you will never need to ask what women want again, because the question itself dissolves. You stop asking, what do they want from me? And start asking, am I living in alignment with myself? That shift changes everything. You no longer approach relationships hungry. You approach them whole. You don't negotiate your values for connection. You don't betray your rhythm to be chosen. You don't shrink your edges to seem harmless. You allow yourself to be seen, not because you need to be, but because you are no longer afraid of what's there. And ironically, this is when attraction becomes effortless.
Not dramatic.
Not obsessive.
Effortless.
Because people, especially women, are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to coherence. A man whose thoughts, emotions, and actions are aligned creates a kind of psychological gravity.
Not loud. Not flashy.
But undeniable. If this resonated, sit with it. Don't rush to comment. Don't turn insight into entertainment. Don't dilute it with noise. Let it disturb you. Let it ask you questions you can't answer immediately. Where are you still abandoning yourself? Where are you still performing instead of standing? Where are you seeking permission instead of embodying truth? These questions don't demand speed. They demand honesty. And honesty takes time, because the path of self-mastery is not a glow-up. It's a stripping away of illusions, of masks, of borrowed identities. It is choosing depth over dopamine, stillness over stimulation, integrity over image. And if you're walking that path, not talking about it, not branding it, but walking it.
Subscribe. Not for motivation.
Not for hype, not for reassurance, but for clarity. Because clarity doesn't comfort you, it steadies you. And a steady man doesn't chase what he desires. He becomes the ground it stands on.